Why do they call them Fuzz? Do they have? Is it the hats? Because they're a bit fuzzy.
I don't know.
No.
I remember you used to love, when we were at university, never in earshot of a policeman, of course, but if we'd pass them and then they'd be really far down the street, you'd go, "Evening, constable."
Oh, I thought you were going to go, "Oink, oink, I smell bacon."
Oh, you do that as well, yeah, you had a bit of a thing for it. I don't quite know where that came from, your vigilante. Yeah.
Wow. What a strange sort of weird humour to have. It's not you, is it, really? Were you doing it ironically?
I tell you what, I kept doing it to Bria because he worked for friend of the show, Paul Bria, because he worked for the police dispatch people, whatever they're called. Yeah. And he fucking hated it. Oh, he did not see the funny side. He did not like that at all. Oink, oink, I smell bacon. I'm not even a policeman. It doesn't even work.
I mean, fair enough, isn't it? Really? Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Diminishing Returns, the second in our three-part series looking at Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg's Cornetto trilogy, I think it's generally called. So last week we did Shaun of the Dead. Next week we will be doing The World's End. And this week, Saul and I, joined by our very special guest, Calvin Dyson, will be looking at Hot Fuzz.
Ooh. It's getting hot in here.
So take off all your
fuzzy
clothes.
in here.
Hello, this is Calvin.
Hello, this is Saul.
So, guys, Calvin, you weren't here last week, but basically, for anyone who didn't hear our Shaun of the Dead episode, Saul and I just fawned over it for an hour and said how amazing it was, and that it's basically the best film ever made. So
yeah, on that note, Calvin, very quickly, how do you feel about Shaun of the Dead? I don't think it's as positive as us.
Oh, no, I like it very much. Yeah.
What would you give it out of 10?
Oh, 7. I think that's a fair score for it, I think.
Okay, well, do you want to know what we both gave
probably
it?
9s or something. It's probably the highest rated thing in the site now.
Yeah.
We both gave it perfect 10s, so it's now the highest rated film we've ever covered on Diminishing Returns.
Oh, that's so annoying. My 7 should count.
I do actually have half a mind to add your 7 in.
On the third. If you're not going to turn up for the episode, then
anyway, yeah. So, all right. So you're a fan of Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, it's nice.
We're obviously very, very big fans of Shaun of the Dead. I think we basically said it was about as perfect a film as you'll find in as many words. So they came back for all intents and purposes a sequel, a spiritual successor.
Yeah,
Hot
it's not
Fuzz.
certainly not the same character or anything.
Is it a satisfactory continuation?
Well, of course, we do have a secret weapon here in Hot Fuzz for Calvin, the presence of Mr. Timothy Dalton. Which is...
We've got more than just him, but yeah.
Yes, there's many great things in this one.
Yes.
I'll put my cards on the table right now. I think this is better than Shaun of the Dead. And I guess we'll be talking about why, but just to sort of say something general about it, I think the genre it is taking off is...
This is going to be complete... the opposite of one of my first notes.
Well, I mean, of course, it's known as and was marketed as sort of like an action movie spoof, but really, it's more of a slasher movie take, I think,
with splatterings of folk horror.
Yes,
as well,
yeah, a lot of Wicker Man in here.
Yeah, yes,
and you know, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, that sort of thing. A lot of very gruesome kills.
Yeah, which was a huge part of really winning me over to the film. Actually, I remember when I first went to see it. I had no idea it was going to skewer off into horror territory. I kind of just expected this Bad Boys-esque buddy cop movie, and I was all right with that. But as my first note here says, police just ain't as good as zombies. And then when it kind of does, it really does take a left turn. I think the first time you watch it, you're not expecting it to go all horror and what have you. It's quite for genre fans, certainly, it's quite
well, funnily enough,
relief, really.
Last week we were talking about sequels to Shaun of the Dead, and one of the ideas that Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg has thrown out there, seemingly as a joke, was From Dusk Till Dawn, a sort of take on Dusk Till Dawn. But this has elements of that in terms of that big tone shift halfway through, where it suddenly becomes a totally different genre. Right. And then they start playing on horror tropes instead of buddy cop tropes. But it worked. I didn't. It doesn't feel unbalanced in that sense. It does seem like it does service to both.
I think that the stuff that's taking off the horror side of things is stronger than the action movie stuff. And perhaps because the target is a bit more sort of narrowed down and focused, I think, because when it like action movies are so broad in their own sort of subgenres, like buddy cop films, I don't even know if I have much of a reference for that. I mean, you guys talked about Beverly Hills Cop, and like, is that the sort of thing that this is taking off? I probably don't get as many of the action movie references as I do the horror stuff.
I mean, that's obviously a comedy one to begin with, so it's as much as Shaun of the Dead was taking off from Return of the Living Dead and like comedic zombie movies. It's definitely informed the film to a degree, but they're really playing on more serious ones, such as Bad Boys 2 and Point Break.
I would say that compared to the likes of Shaun of the Dead, the little references here are fewer, definitely, and the ones they do. And there'll definitely be things here that I'm not getting. The ones they do are really kind of pointed out. Like, they literally show the clip from Point Break that he does later on. So it's not just that they're playing on it. They're doing it on a less subtle level.
I think I would say there's probably about equal number of references to other films in this one.
In the horror stuff or in the police stuff?
Oh, are we talking specifically one or the other?
Well, I think the horror stuff's a lot more. There's more of that.
There's way more horror stuff, but it's not all really overt. Some of it is, but some of it's more. I mean, you've got everything here from where the production of Romeo and Juliet that they do at the local community centre or whatever it is specifically a production of Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. For example, they obviously do The Omen. That's like a real full-on Omen homage when Adam Buxton's head gets crushed to pieces, but that isn't like they sort of stop and go, hey guys, it's The Omen. Cranberry Juice, that's a reference to what's it called? Alan, what's the police film where he's drinking cranberry juice?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that was a reference.
I want to say either Leon or The Departed, but I've forgotten which one it is.
Leon drinks milk, if I remember correctly.
It's The Departed then, I think, is it? It's The Departed. The Departed, he drinks cranberry juice. I mean, not that that's a weird thing to do if you're not drinking alcohol, but... Oh, no, sorry, the spider plant, the plant he has, that's Leon, isn't it?
Yeah, Leon has.
And the cranberry juice was The Departed. That's why I'm getting confused.
Yeah. I did notice a bit where Simon Pegg's character is walking through the square and a load of pigeons fly up, which I think was a John Woo reference.
It is a John Woo reference, yeah. Very, very, very specifically, yeah. So there you go. It's got a lot of it in there, but I think a lot of it is maybe less overt to... I don't know. I think we're just not as aware of the genre as... Possibly.
The other thing in terms of being more overt was... we talked last week in Shaun of the Dead about how many things they put in that foreshadows things to come, but in a way that you would never pick up the first time, and it was just more of a cheeky bonus for the people who watch it a few times.
There's a lot of that in here, but far less of it, and it feels like they were trying harder to kind of repeat that.
Well, I think partly the problem here is that they use that device to create a kind of murder mystery plot in which we're dropping these clues in, and then he puts them all together at the end. So, well, not at the end, actually, because then there's a twist reveal sort of thing. But in terms of when he thinks he's worked it out. So they have to hammer them home a little bit more, and they also have to have that moment where he's remembering it and he's hearing the voice in his head, or he sees that again, because they're using it as a plot device rather than just as a bit of a Easter egg sort of thing.
There's a lot of the little Easter egg ones in here, though. There's stuff like when they're at the fun fair and the guy says to Nicholas Angel something like, it's like a little shooting range thing, and he says something like, take out all the little people and you get to ride off with the cuddly monkey, and that's meant to be a foreshadowing of
what happens at the end.
Shoot all the bad guys and you get to go off with Danny Butterman. There's a lot of that in here. It's just not nearly as well done as it is in Shaun of the Dead. It's less, you want to be a big cop in a small town, fuck off up the model village, or whatever the line is. And obviously that's ultimately what he does. The big fights, there at the end. There is a lot of that in there. It's just not as sort of beautifully constructed as some of it is in Shaun of the Dead.
It's just
I think some of it is still a little bit surprising, like the stuff with the swan and everything. Like, you just sort of think that's just a little gag earlier on, and then it comes back later on. I was I'd forgotten just sort of how rich the whole film is. Really, obvious. I think the writing is very tight and great and everything, but there's also just so many little references in each scene, and even Peter Jackson popping up for a cameo, Cate Blanchett popping up for a cameo. It's one of those things where you can just spend the whole film, if you're watching it with someone, just pointing out all the little tidbits.
I bet that's not annoying. Is this what happened to your boyfriend while you were watching this film?
No, I watched this alone, actually. I was just pointing out to myself.
Yeah, I like you going, oh, look, that's Steve Coogan. He's like, who?
Oh, that's Edward Woodward. This makes sense because he was in The Wicker Man, and they're referencing The Wicker Man.
Bit of trivia, guys. Do you know what they were gonna call the shop before they cleared Summerfield?
No,
Alan.
Ooh,
want to take a guess? It's a beautiful name. I wish they'd gone with it instead of Summerfield. Honestly,
Somerville, is that where was the Wicker Man set? What would they call that?
Oh, you're on the right lines. They wanted to call it Summer Isles after the island, Summer Isle.
That's great.
But obviously, there's a double meaning because Isles being a supermarket.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it would play on Summerfield that people would recognise.
Exactly, which was a shop. Any listeners too young to remember, Summerfield was a real shop.
Does it not exist anymore?
No, it was bought out by the Co-op shortly after.
I need
this
to
film.
Google
They don't
this.
exist anymore.
Oh wow!
Was it because
I worked in a Summerfield when this came out, so I had a whole extra level of enjoyment.
Oh yeah, ceased operations in 2011. Wow.
I didn't know that.
Was it annoying, working there after the film came out? Did people come in and try and recreate scenes, and you had to be like, "Oh, excuse me, this is a workplace"?
No, us at work kept trying to recreate the film because we were teenage boys prattling around in a supermarket. It was great.
There is actually something about this film that does make me it just took me straight back to first year of university, and I don't quite know why, because I know it was released a year before we all went to university, but I remember it being quite an influential film, or a film that everyone had seen and everyone liked, and it was still being discussed quite a bit. But I think there are just a lot of things in here that take me back. There's that bit where he opens up his DVD cabinet, and it's this big oh my god, all of his films, and I certainly coveted when I was first watching this back then.
Do you know who those DVDs actually were?
Was it Edgar Wright's?
It was the combined efforts of Edgar Wright, his brother Oscar Wright, and Joe Cornish's DVD collections.
Brilliant. Yeah, I just love that would be seen as this. It just shows how far we've come in 12 years, I suppose. Oh wow, a physical media collection was a really big deal back then.
It was a huge deal though. Shaun of the Dead, I remember when it came out, was a real, certainly in terms of high school and being a 15-year-old at the time, it was a real underground thing. I know it was getting good reviews in the paper and what have you, but the average person on the street hadn't seen it. If you spoke to them about it, they were like, oh, you mean Dawn of the Dead, as in the Zack Snyder remake that had just come out?
And you were like, no, actually, I think you'll find it's Shaun of the Dead. It's a play on words.
And Dawn of the Dead is actually a film from 1978. Starring, written by George Romero.
Come on. No, name one of the actors. Come on, name one actor from Dawn of the Dead.
That's what I was trying to do, and then I was like, oh shit, there's no one in it. Ken Fiore, is it?
Oh, yeah, I'll give you that. Ken
my
Fiore,
God.
Yeah.
I only know that because he's in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
He was also in Kenan and Kel.
He's in Kenan and Kel?
He was Kenan's dad.
Jesus.
Yeah, the point I was getting to anyway, Shaun of the Dead was a real sort of underground thing, and it was one of those big DVD hits. After a certain point, it took off and everyone had seen it, and now everyone knows Shaun of the Dead.
Do you remember, guys, in the 2000s when you could have a DVD hit? That was a thing.
Yeah. By 2007, everyone knew about Shaun of the Dead, and so Hot Fuzz was the film that kind of enjoyed the spoils of that. It was a huge #1 box office hit in the UK. I think it got to like number 6 in the US box office, which is pretty substantial for.
It's a very British film.
What is quite a small British film, yeah, on a limited release.
And it still seems relatively low budget.
It was. All things considered. I mean, I think it's got twice the budget Shaun of the Dead had, but that's not a lot of money. Probably more than twice the budget, actually. But
Nick Frost's wage demands had increased considerably.
Yeah. Well, one of the demands he actually made was that he get to name his character himself.
When he chose Fanny Batterbomb.
Yeah. Yeah, remember you're talking about a man who shaved a square of his hair off to play Ed in Shaun of the Dead. He's obviously, he's concerned about what's best for the project, Alex.
So, can we go through the cast a little bit?
Yes.
Before we get to plot?
Yeah.
Great cast.
Yeah,
because
brilliant.
As Shaun of the Dead was, it's sort of chock full of cameos as well as your main cast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did a little Shaun of the Dead quiz last week that was more of an excuse to just list a whole load of cameos. Thought I'd do roughly the same thing this week. But it's going to be more fun because I can actually play you against each other. Yeah?
Okay.
I would like you to list, for me, you can take turns, actors who were in Shaun of the Dead or Spaced who appear in Hot Fuzz.
No.
If they're in both, you get 2 points.
Damn it.
Okay. I watched Shaun of the Dead last week. I don't think Calvin has.
Yeah, no, this is...
And I don't think Calvin
has ever seen
Spaced properly. So I'm going to let you go first, Calvin.
Okay. Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg, correct. He is in Spaced and Shaun of the Dead, obviously. That's 2 points to you.
All right, in that case, I'll take Nick Frost.
That is correct. Well done. Same. He's in both, for obvious reasons. Okay.
I'm a bit stuck now.
There's 3 more.
3? Is that all?
3 more who are in both.
Right.
Then a further 3 have appeared in Spaced, and a whole load have appeared in Shaun of the Dead.
I've definitely got 1.
Let me have a think. Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ. It won't be him. He wouldn't have been in Spaced.
You want to think British comedy rather than proper actors. That
Steve
they
Coogan.
To get in. No, actually, surprisingly, no, he's not in either. He was one of their big gets for Hot Fuzz, even though he's only in 2 scenes. But if you think on that same, I was giving you a clue, and then I realised it was to be Alan's turn next. I was like, hang on.
Well, I know one. I do know one who's in both. Julia Deakin.
Julia Deakin, correct. She was Marcia, the landlady in Spaced, and she was the alternate version of Penelope Wilton that they run into very briefly in Shaun of the Dead, when they have kind of comedic counterparts, something Zombieland 2 seems to be also doing. That's all the main, real actors in both of them. The other 2 are just kind of weird little cameos.
Is one of those Adam Buxton?
No.
Unlucky.
No, he's not in either, surprisingly. Although, yeah.
Okay.
You're on the right lines.
Martin Freeman is definitely in Shaun of the Dead.
He is in Shaun of the Dead, yes. Martin Freeman, correct. Policeman at the start of this, and the alternate boyfriend for Jessica Stevenson.
Bill Nighy,
correct. Of course, plays Philip in Shaun of the Dead, and one of the policemen at the start of this.
I am sure that Kevin Eldon, the actor Kevin Eldon, has appeared in Spaced.
Correct. He played a kind of Matrix parody Agent Smith kind of character in an episode of Spaced. Right. Yeah.
Oh, damn it, he was going to be my next one. Was Olivia Colman ever in Spaced?
Oscar winner Olivia Colman was not in Spaced. No, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm going to go with Edgar Wright.
Very well done. He is one of the 2 remaining people who was in both Shaun of the Dead and Spaced. Do you know who he played in Hot Fuzz?
No, I don't think so.
He plays a shelf stacker in the background in Summerfield because he used to be one, just like I was. That's why he made it Summerfield. And he's also the voice of Dave at the start when the guy's like, "I'm not Dave," and Dave. He makes a little noise.
Right. I'm trying to think of some of the old people. I think most of the old people. Is it that guy who was in Shameless?
No,
David
no, it's not actually. No.
Yes, that's him, but never mind.
It's a good shout, though.
Okay, I've got a definite one. Plays proper characters in both films. Rafe Spall.
Rafe Spall, yeah. Rafe Spall was Noel in Shaun of the Dead, and he is one of the...
I was going to say, you pronounce it Rafe
Spall. He's one of the Andys, along with Paddy Considine.
And last week, Saul, you said that Rafe Spall's character in Shaun of the Dead was his best work. I think this is his best work. I've decided. I haven't watched this again.
Well, if I did say that last week, it was a glaring omission of this.
Yeah, he's changed so much over the few years.
Same goes for Paddy Considine. I think this is Paddy Considine's best work as well.
Oh, come on. He's done some pretty solid work in his time.
He has, and this is fantastic. This is right up there with the best of
it. Lucy Punch?
No. Lucy Punch, one of my favourites.
Joe Cornish?
Joe Cornish, well done. He was a zombie in Shaun of the Dead.
Is he in this then?
He is one of the people in the suits at the start with Dave and what's she called? Not Janine. I think he plays Not Janine. I'm Not Janine, that one.
Is it my go?
Yeah. I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
This guy was in Spaced, and he plays 2 roles in Hot Fuzz, technically.
Oh, Paddy Considine.
No. No.
Oh wait.
No, 2 roles in Hot Fuzz.
Bill Bailey.
It's Bill Bailey. He's done.
Oh. Damn it! Yeah.
All right, I'll give you another. I mean, to be honest, I think that's it that either of you are going to get.
Let me just have a little think. What else could there be? Stephen Merchant, maybe. Has he ever pop up in Spaced?
No, he didn't. Ricky Gervais did, but Merchant didn't. There are 4 zombies in Shaun of the Dead who pop up in this film. One of whom's notable in his own right, but
Peter Jackson.
No, but he is in that scene with Peter. Oh no, he's not that in that. He's in that opening montage. Sorry, with Peter Jackson.
Oh.
Go on.
Garth Jennings, film director, friend of Edgar Wright. He plays the crackhead at the start of the film. We also have the twin zombies from Shaun of the Dead in here as the Butcher Boys, whatever their names are, in the Summerfield, throwing knives and things at them. And Annette Roper in Hot Fuzz, I think she's the shopkeeper, was the spinster zombie, the old woman who you see quite prominent. Well, you see her before she becomes a zombie, and then as an old woman zombie, she gets shot in the head at the bar. We also have Graham Lowe, who is, I think he's just Edgar Wright's mate, because he plays the living statue in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, yeah.
But he was Twist's friend in an episode of Spaced, and he was a man in the Robot Club crowd, and he was a dancer in the flashback Brian had to when Come On Eileen was playing. So I think it's just Edgar Wright's mate. And last but not least, this person's in 2, both of them. Robert Popper, your mate, Alan.
All right.
He was a bookshop customer in an episode of Spaced, as well as Shaun of the Dead.
We talked about him last week, but it got edited out. So. But Robert Popper was at the time, or certainly at the time of Spaced, he was a commissioning editor for Channel 4 for comedy.
I think specifically
right?
comedy,
like
yeah.
So he knew them through that and was just sort of mates with them.
Yeah.
He's a writer as well.
Okay, I've got 2 other little games that I might as well rattle off here. See if you can win back, Calvin. You're not going to like this next one, but then you might be able to win it back with the last one. This next one is references to Spaced or Shaun of the Dead. I've counted 6.
Cornettos.
Yes.
Oh.
I will accept. Want anything from the shop? Eating a cornetto? I will accept that as a reference to Shaun of the Dead. I'll give you a point for that, Calvin. Clawing it back.
Brilliant, thank you.
There was I remember hearing a line in this film and going, "Oh, they said that in Shaun of the Dead," but I can't remember what it was.
You've got red on you.
No. No, I don't believe they ever say that in Hot Fuzz. The line I think you might be referring to is the overt, "What's the matter, never taken a shortcut before?" And
and
do the whole fence thing again.
That was it.
There is also a weird moment where Danny Butterman's looking at DVDs in the bin at the supermarket, and when he puts it down, there's very briefly a copy of Shaun of the Dead on DVD, but the name's been changed to Zombies Party, which is the I think the Italian name that Shaun of the Dead was given, and Simon Pegg's been edited off the box. So they're the three obvious actual references. The other three are debatable, but Danny shoots Dr. Hatcher in the leg with an air rifle. Ed shot his sister in the leg with an air rifle. That does seem like it might have been an intended little nod. They have the Neighborhood Watch Alliance. They get a lot of jokes out of NWA that Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg seem to find really funny. That is, of course, a reference to the rap group, and there was a deleted scene in Shaun of the Dead where their quiz team was quizzers with attitude or something. They shout through the door. Bit of a stretch, that one.
That sounds just more like they like to drop NWA references.
Yeah. And lastly, the fruit machine in both films is the same. It's a fruit machine called Ooh Ah Dracula.
Like that.
All right, another little game for you here, Calvin. You should be able to win this back a bit. Excellent. I think
Bond references in Hot Fuzz.
Weirdly enough,
Timothy Dalton.
There are 5 Oscar nominees / winners in this film.
Ooh. I know one.
So for each one you name, I will give you, let's say, 2 points for someone who won an Oscar and 1 point for someone who was nominated.
Oh, okay, but there's only 5.
Yeah, only 5. So you get to start, Carmen.
Right. Well, Cate Blanchett.
Okay, Cate Blanchett. Gone for one of the tricky ones. She's a 7-time nominee, 2-time winner.
Fucking hell, 7-time.
Jesus.
Oscar winner Olivia Colman is in this.
Yes, well done.
Oh,
Oscar
yeah,
winner Olivia Colman in one of her
doing her best work. I think one of her best.
one of her early comedy roles, and very good. She, of course, won for The Favourite at the most recent Oscars. 1-time nominee, 1-time winner.
Well, there's Peter Jackson as well.
Yes, very good. Yeah. Peter Jackson, 9-time nominee.
What?
And won 3 of those.
3 films?
Yeah, but each one was nominated for, like, director, screenplay, film, all that shit. Do you want to know what he was nominated for? All 3 Lord of the Rings films for God knows what, various combinations of stuff. But he also was nominated for Heavenly Creatures for the screenplay, quite rightly so, I would argue, and Best Picture for District 9, on which he was a producer.
Yeah, forget about that.
I think I've got one.
Go on.
Steve Coogan.
Steve Coogan, he's the only nominee who has not won, but he is one of them. Yeah, he's a 2-time nominee for
hang on, the film, it's him and an older lady, something starting with P. It's a woman's name.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Philomena,
that's
Philomena, yeah. Both for Philomena. Named producer for the best film nod it got, and then the adapted screenplay nod it got as well.
Right, so there's one more, right?
One more, yes, and they are a winner.
Actor?
Yes.
It's going to be something. Is it Billy Whitelaw?
That was going to be my guess if it's right.
No.
Ooh. Oh, wait, no, I know. I definitely know it. Stone the Crows. I know it. It's Jim Broadbent.
Yes. Yes, Jim Broadbent. 1-time nominee, and he won for, do you know, Alan?
Iris,
supporting actor, yeah.
And he went up and said, "Stone the Crows." That was his acceptance speech.
And his wife in Hot Fuzz, his dead wife, was originally in the script called Iris. And he requested that they change her name because he thought it would be a distracting, mistaken as a reference to his film. All right, well, Alan, you won that with twice Calvin's points. But
that's fine.
But well done for taking part, everyone. Go on, Calvin. How many Bond references are in this?
Oh, I don't know about that. Not actually that many specific
either,
ones.
Yeah, I don't.
I think just the Timothy Dalton's presence. I don't think there's really. Yeah.
Well, that and David Arnold as well was the composer.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, who composed the scores to 3 Pierce Brosnan films and 2 Daniel Craig films.
Yeah. And made use of Casino Royale's orchestra for this film.
Oh, really?
To save on the budget. Yeah, they didn't have the money for a full
They just did it in the lunch break.
They basically did. They had the Casino Royale orchestra in to record the music for that film, and he was like at the end. He was basically said at the end of the day, right now we've done that. Let's just quickly do this Hot Fuzz theme. Just bash that out while I've got you.
I hope they got paid.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think they probably got paid for the day from the sound of it. So. And Cubby Broccoli's estate were probably not in the loop and very unhappy. But...
We haven't actually talked about the cast. We just sort of mentioned them.
We've covered a whole load of cameos, but yeah, that.
So we got up front. You got Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, as in Shaun of the Dead.
All right, how do we feel about them here? A real kind of role, well, not reversal, but Shaun has become Nicholas Angel, so we've gone from a kind of slacker struggling to get his life in check to the most insanely competent, high-achieving policeman in the world. It's quite a change of pace.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that?
It feels a bit more of a caricature kind of character, but it works for what this is.
Yeah. I feel like there's less heart maybe in what he's doing. It doesn't quite play as believably, so I guess that's kind of what you were just saying. It's more of a caricature, but it works. It's fine. I do like the name Nicholas Angel. I think Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright are maybe not the best at naming their characters, but they're getting better with this film, and they just plucked the music supervisor's name on these films. I don't know if you noticed that. Nick Angel.
What was it?
Yeah. I guess that's why Nick Frost decided to do his own name.
Yeah.
Well, Nick Frost is basically the same character as Shaun of the Dead, right?
A heightened, more friendly, sillier one.
Definitely more friendly, less... Because the character in Shaun of the Dead is a dickhead. He's quite a nasty piece of work, really, in many ways. And he gets away with it because of a sort of certain charm that he has. But in this one...
Like Saul.
In this one, Danny Butterman is just a nice, slightly naive, slightly secluded guy. Doesn't seem to do anybody any harm at all. I'll tell you one thing I really like about the character and the way these two interact is how much Danny learns from Simon Pegg's character. All the way through, Nicholas Angel is going, oh no, we don't do that, you say this instead, or the rules say we should do this. And he learns, he's taking it all on, and it's like, finally he's got someone to look up to and to learn from.
Yeah, or he tries to, at least.
But he does most of the time. He seems to take it all on board.
You know, policeman officer isn't quite what he was trying to get him to say, but he's taking the right
But it
message
feels
on.
like someone who's got... that character now comes across as someone who's got so much more potential that's just never been tapped into, and finally someone is kind of teaching him things.
Yeah.
I think that really, really works for the character. It's a really nice way, and the fact that they grow together and kind of become friends, that helps that. It makes it work.
Yeah. They wrote it as they approached it, I don't mean they wrote it as, but they approached it as a rom-com when they were writing the two, just a straight-up romance. And to add to that, there was originally a love interest for Nicholas Angel who was written out of the script, and when they did that, they just basically left big chunks of her dialogue intact for Danny Butterman, which I think comes across. Cool. So
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that though. I like that we're not distracted with a love story on the side or anything.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Even there, there's a bit where Nicholas Angel says to him like, why don't you ever listen? Why have you not learned anything from everything I've been telling you? And then he's kind of proved wrong, you know, and they kind of learns to respect him in a way. And I like that. I really like that because they never draw attention to it. They never go, "Oh, look, he's learning," but it's always there. And I think it gives the character so much more weight.
Yeah, Jim Broadbent's in it, as we were just talking about.
Reliable.
Yeah, he's always a very warm, friendly presence, I think, and so it's very good casting, I suppose, and that he kind of ultimately gets to be the villain and subvert that. I think it works quite well. He begins as a very friendly, you know, helpful figure, and
as opposed to all the other members of the council or whatever they end up being, he's given a lot more character. He's given a lot more kind of... All the others are pretty much painted as these kind of wacko little villager people. Apart from Timothy Dalton. But then he really comes across as much more that he knows what he's doing. And so in the early part of the film, before we have the sort of flip, you do very much get the sense that this is just a little country station, and this guy, he knows how to handle it locally. You don't have to play by the rules. Sometimes you just go, okay, so-and-so, sleep it off, slap on the wrists, and that's the best thing to do. And I think, obviously, that works because Nicholas Angel has to learn that as well. He has to learn that sometimes you have to throw away the book. And it really works on that level. But what I mean is, whereas all the other police seem like kind of imbeciles, he is the one holding it together, and he's just working with what he's got.
Should we talk about the other policemen there as well? We've got a whole cavalcade of British comedy people, I suppose. Kevin Eldon doing his typical thing. I don't think he's doing anything particularly remarkable by his standards here. Olivia Colman, much the same, kind of doing a standard Mitchell and Webb kind of work here. You know, very, very nice to have her in the film. She brings a lot to it.
Actually, that character works really nicely, I think. It's not like she does a lot, but every line is a little gag.
Yeah.
It works very nicely.
Yeah. We have the two Andys, who I'm a big fan of. I think they're two of the best characters in the film.
I agree, yeah.
Not a huge amount that they do, but what they do is very funny, brings a lot to it.
There's so much of it there as well that it is the double act, obviously, like just throwing away each other. But the one, there's quite a well-known bit where they, they're like looking at him and then they move, and then Paddy Considine just moves back into shot and comes back out. I'm sure you know the bit I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which is just like, I don't know if that was I don't know if he just did that in the moment. I can't imagine that's in the script, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But little things like that work so nicely, and the way that they just spar off each other works perfectly. It's really nice.
Yeah. Bill Bailey's there.
Yeah.
People like him.
He doesn't really do anything interesting.
Adam Buxton in a rare cinematic turn.
Rare for a reason.
He's weirdly out of step with the degree of realism all the other actors are going for, isn't he? He's kind of just doing... It's like he's acting it like it's an episode of the Adam and Joe show. He's doing like a little filmed skit, but it somehow gets away with it, and he's a likable enough presence.
He's doing his Lucy Davis impression. Hello, can I get a little comment for the newspaper?
Laura, blinded data. Hello, chocolate couple, surprise, Christmas in it. Laura, Lolly, presents of blinded data. If you were Santa, what kind of Santa were you, boy? Lolly couple, and New Year coming up, full surprise. Choke our nice time, Laura, blinded data.
Who else we got? Stephen Merchant's in there briefly. Alice Lowe. I like Alice Lowe. She has a very little role as a employee at Summerfield. David Bradley sort of playing to the best of his abilities as well, I'd say.
Rory McCann's in there. If anyone who likes Game of Thrones, he played the Hound in Game of Thrones. He also works at the supermarket.
The Hound?
Yeah, in Game of Thrones.
A dog?
But he's not...
No.
It's
called the Hound.
Is he a big brute man who's called the Hound?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Lucy Punch, you mentioned before. She's in this.
Mm-hmm.
She went off to Hollywood, didn't she?
Yeah, she was in a series of unfortunate events recently. I'm not sure if she was much of a name at this point. She was probably in St. Trinian's and...
She's just kind of had notable supporting roles in things. A substantial supporting role in Into the Woods. She was one of the ugly stepsisters. She was in Bad Teacher, Alan, your favourite. She played the teacher, one of the good teachers. She is just in stuff, but no, I do really like her, actually, and like I say, I'm really attracted to her. Again, she doesn't really do masses here. We've got Steve Coogan and Bill Nighy and Martin Freeman, kind of... I don't know if it's quite fair to say they're phoning it in, because I think it's more like they were probably asked if they could just be in the film to do the guys a favour, and they were like, yeah, sure, we'll be in it.
It's one day film.
We'll give you one day. It's very much, them not really... It's the bare minimum they could have given to the film, but yeah, whatever. It's nice to have them there. Cate Blanchett, we've mentioned her bizarre little cameo at the start as Janine. Secret, uncredited cameo.
Are you just not bringing up Timothy Dalton to annoy me at this point? Like
saving the best till last.
Oh, okay. Fine. Because I like there's a lot of the older actors that they have, like Edward Woodward and Billy Whitelaw, and these old horror movie actors. I mean, Woodward's obviously there because of The Wicker Man,
absolutely.
references. But Billy Whitelaw, she was in she must have been in Hammer horror films back in the day.
What's her name was an extra in Straw Dogs.
Anne Reid is there.
Anne Reid, yeah, she's very good. Yeah. She was in a film with Daniel Craig.
Oh yes, she was, wasn't she? Yeah. I read an article where she was thrilled that she could qualify herself as a Bond girl. I don't think it quite works out that way. Paul Freeman is the Reverend, and
he's been on this. We've had him on this show before.
Had him on?
Well, you know what I mean. We've seen his work previously on this podcast.
Indiana Jones?
No, we haven't done Indiana Jones. No, he's in bloody Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, isn't he?
Oh my God, is that him?
Ivan Ooze.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
God, I never put that together that was him.
And of course, unless I'm forgetting anyone else, Timothy Dalton.
Yes, with a good name. I like Simon Skinner.
007 himself.
I never liked him that much until he was having a bit of a resurgence around this time. I remember he was in this and then much. Toy Story 3 a few years later. He was a big part of the Doctor Who finale for David Tennant, I think.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
I must admit.
But he's brilliant here. He's having a lot of fun.
Ding dong.
Oh God.
I'm a Japanese slasher. Lock me up. Oh no, it's rebooted Japanese Bond played by Timothy Dalton.
Oh my God.
Yes, there's life yet in this concept. What's this accent?
It's actually good that you outright explained what you were doing because I did not get that at all.
He's Welsh.
You know, he's not got a big cartoon voice that he does. Hello,
he is Welsh.
Japanese Bond. I can't do Welsh. Can't do it.
You can't do the Welsh Japanese accent.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Why are you here, Timothy Dalton, Japanese Timothy Dalton? Oh, well, I'm here to ring in a couple of new patrons. All right. Just hoping there might be a pun or something there. No.
He hasn't got the wit of Sean Connery.
I'm a working thespian. I go off the book, off the script.
Oh, that was good. This is getting better.
You know, he's just doing Mr. Pricklepants now, though. He's...
you know my methodology. Yes. We have Ernst de Gebruggen.
Oh yeah.
Ernst de Bruggen.
Brun. One of our Dutch fans.
Yes, they've just upped their pledge to $2. So, thank you, you fine patron of the arts. Oh, thank you. And we also have Mr. Josh Parham. Josh Parham. All right, thank you very much, Josh. And last but not least, Mr. George Lowes.
George Lowes.
All right, thank you very much, George.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, patrons. And of course, this episode
thank you.
is the result of you patron people telling us what to do. So
don't tell me what to do.
We might, put another one up there if you want to see us do Doctor Who. If that made it into the edit, probably didn't. We were just talking about doing Doctor Who. Maybe we'll put that up as an option for a future episode, and you can go and vote for it. And Diminisodes, we've recorded a shitload of Diminisodes that we haven't edited yet, that we need to put up. So they are coming. We've still got your James Bond experience that you did to edit and put out.
That is all edited and ready to go. You can put that one up.
Is it? I didn't know you'd edited that.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'll put that up now. That will have gone out a few days before this episode. So that's good, isn't it? James Bond exclusive content. And what else? What else have we got coming up? Spider-Man. We've recorded that one. We haven't edited it yet. Lion King. Yeah.
We haven't got to the Dalton Bond yet, so I can't judge him on that. But I think he comes across really well in this. Not just as an actor. It's just like he totally knows exactly what he's doing.
They had nothing but glowing things to say about him, Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, just in terms of his professionalism. Just for example, the scene where they're in the Summerfield office, they shot all of the shots looking at Timothy Dalton the first day, and then the next day they had to come back and shoot the other stuff getting Simon Pegg's reactions and his dialogue. And so Timothy Dalton wasn't to be on screen for any of that. And I think it was like a 6 a.m. call or something, quite an early call. And apparently he was right up first thing in the morning, and they weren't expecting it at all, because apparently it's just standard that any sort of substantial actor will be like, well, fuck that, you've got all of me. Exactly. You just have someone read my lines off camera. And apparently he was just there on set reading the lines off camera so Simon Pegg could react, and they said they thought he was an incredible professional. Okay, so shall we start hitting the plot a bit more properly? I know we've obviously touched on a lot of things already. If we just we'll go through it, and then we'll cover everything we want to. So, well, we open on this wonderful montage of Simon Pegg being a amazing cop, walking towards camera. Goody Two Shoes by Adamant's playing. His photo on the ID is like green screened in to match up with the actual expression he's pulling in the shot itself. There's a lot going on up front, and it's all very cool. A lot of those classic Edgar Wright cuts where you see a lot of things happening, and they're just these quick, like, shoom, 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 like a drawer opening, keys getting picked up, like door lock, like all that. I must say, the start of this film, compared to Shaun of the Dead, I think it feels a bit clunky. It's like it doesn't quite ebb and flow and take off in quite the same way. It feels like it's got a bit of housekeeping to do before they can kind of get on the adventure and start the plot off properly. Well, do you know what I mean? If you're starting the plot with like voiceover to try and like, look, let's pack all this backstory into 2 minutes and get it done, I think that's good. I think it's efficient. It works. It's got enough flavor to it to make it work. Yeah, but it's that followed by a bit of an awkward scene with Steve Coogan, Bill Nighy, Martin Freeman. As much as I love them, I don't know quite how well that scene works. Yeah, it does just, I don't know, compared to the rest of the film. And then you've got, following that, the scene with Cate Blanchett, which is nice, good scene, but it does again feel a bit disconnected from the rest of the film. If it wasn't Cate Blanchett, do you think it might have just been cut out completely? I mean, obviously you don't know it's Cate Blanchett, but it is just a nice little tidbit of trivia. That it is her. Yeah, it does kind of. I mean, I think it is relevant to his character and his arc, I suppose, but it does just feel a bit clunky, like I say. And then when he gets to Sanford, it kind of clicks into gear, I think, and it's it feels comfortable again. But Sanford, by the way, is apparently the name that police certainly used to, I don't know if they still do, give to towns in police training exercises. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I don't think any of us grew up in towns quite like Sanford, but we probably grew up in smaller English towns. I found a lot relatable. Yeah, I was certainly not a million miles away from a Sanford town. Wasn't quite as small and out of the way, but I'm not a big fan. There's a really there's a running crossword gag throughout the film, and I'm not a big fan of it up front when he gets to Sanford, and then it comes back a few times because it's so obvious, Yeah. It's just when firstly that the words she's looking for happen to be hag and fascist. It's like I don't know what crossword that is. I know what you mean. Just compared to the level of stuff that they're doing, the sort of subtlety that they usually work on, it doesn't play well, does it? And then this character can't figure out a 3-letter word that's hag, that's obviously hag. I don't know. It's never quite sat well with me. It just seems a bit like it feels like a placeholder gag. Like they were like, we've got to put a joke in here. Yeah, let's come back to this, and then they never did it. Anyway. On the plus side, this film has, much like Shaun of the Dead, a fantastic soundtrack. Brilliant selection of music used throughout this film. I've already mentioned Goody Two Shoes by Adamant, but we've got 2 Queen songs in Shaun of the Dead. We've got 2 Kink songs in Hot Fuzz. We are the Village Green Preservation Society. God save the old duck, vaudeville and variety. We are the desperate Village Green Preservation Society, and then Village Green off the same album, used a bit later. Out in the country, far from all the subtle noise of the city, there's a Village Green. It's been a long time since I last set eyes on the church with
the steeple down by the...
There's an Eels song in there. There's some great music. And much like Shaun of the Dead, the soundtrack CD was pretty cool and worth checking out if you can acquire it.
You ever fired 2 guns whilst jumping through the air? No. You ever fired 1 gun whilst jumping through the air? No. You ever been in high-speed pursuit? Yes, I have. You ever fired a gun whilst in high-speed pursuit? No. Fuck yeah.
The score, actually, as well. The actual music, we mentioned David Arnold composed it before. But the actual music he put together, yeah. Very big and swelling and a bit over the top, but I think that's kind of by design. Emulating the kind of big action movies the kind of Michael Bay action movies near the end. And
yeah, well, he was Roland Emmerich's go-to. He certainly did the score for Independence Day. No, it's great. I love David Arnold's work. Yeah, I think he does fantastic scores and is very much underrated.
Weirdly enough, Robert Rodriguez composed about 1.5 minutes of music for this film as well.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know why or how that came about. A little bit of montage music when I don't know if it's actually in the film or if it was just the trailer. They definitely used it in one of the trailers, but it's when he's going and getting his sunglasses and things to, like, when he's prepping to come and attack the town and save the day and everything. It's very odd. I assume it's just because they went and did Grindhouse around this period. Edgar Wright.
Of course, yeah, because
being like a favour for a favour or something. No, I think it's very notable. Shaun of the Dead takes about a good half hour to 40 minutes before the zombies properly kick in. And I checked the time on the film when I was watching it. This takes 37 minutes before you get into any of the slasher movie stuff, which is kind of the exact same thing, except in Shaun of the Dead you spend the whole film kind of waiting for the zombies, knowing it's inevitable, being primed for it. Whereas in this, the slasher stuff kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just really like, oh wow, what? It's a similar decision, I think, in terms of pacing, to kind of, right, we're going to establish the characters and the status quo and not rush any of that. I mean, Shaun of the Dead, really, I think we said last week, it really is, it's not a spoof movie. It's very much a zombie movie that also happens to be a comedy. And it's not like it's mocking the genre, it's a loving entry in that genre that's also a comedy. I don't know if you could say quite the same thing about Hot Fuzz. I think it's much closer to being a spoof. I mean, it is a cop movie, kind of, in its own right, but it's through the lens of Britain. So it kind of can't do the big Michael Bay nonsense without just being inherently funny in the process. Yeah. Shaun of the Dead could sincerely just do zombies, and that's, you know, because zombies are inherently tend to be quite small, low-budget movies, I guess. And I think as a result, Hot Fuzz is also just much lighter and funnier throughout. Shaun of the Dead, I think, again, we spoke about it last week. I think I complained that people always used to say Shaun of the Dead was like Spaced the movie, and I think they're actually tonally quite different. Shaun of the Dead is much more concerned about letting the darkness work and letting the horror work as horror and stuff like that. Hot Fuzz to me does kind of just feel like spaced. It's just like fun, silly jokes and references, and it's all silly and light-hearted. And that's not a bad thing. I think it...
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I do think that it feels more lightweight than Shaun of the Dead, just because Shaun of the Dead says something much more about the human condition, and particularly perhaps that's relatable to someone like me, someone like you, a kind of middle-class loss of place, and like you're not achieving what you thought you would, and like you were talking about this quick fix of being thrown into a situation where you can become a hero, and you don't get that from this. It just feels like it's doing a comedy film, and that's fine.
I think that's probably what I mean. It feels more like just a spoof. It's more like we're just going to do that genre and have fun with it. So what happens anyway? He gets to Stanford. He's too good a cop for the town, basically. There's no crime. He's kind of overstepping the mark, arresting people, doing stuff by the book. But then people start getting murdered, and it becomes a murder mystery.
But then they play it for laughs in the sense that, he kicks all the kids out of the pub because they're underage, and the locals are just like, oh, they're not doing any harm. We know them. We know their parents. It's all right. But then the other one is that he stops Nick Frost's character from drink driving, and not just like, oh, I might have had one or two. It was like he's completely paralytic and he's about to drive.
Yeah, he nearly injures Nicholas Angel quite severely. He just happens to be incredibly athletic and able to like jump and roll out of the way of a car.
And yet they play that off for the same sort of laughs.
I don't think they do. I think the laugh there is, how stupid is this Danny Butterman idiot? I don't think the joke is Nicholas Angel's being a prick.
Well, that whole scene is about him being overly officious, even if he's correct. And the fact that, he never really gets his comeuppance for that.
Again, I think the film's joke is, I don't think you're meant to go, ha, it's so funny that he can't believe they're not properly punishing this guy and dealing with it. I think it's more that you're meant to be on Nicholas Angel's side and be like, what the fuck? That you're only making him buy ice cream instead of properly arresting him and everything.
Partly the problem up front is that Nicholas Angel as a character is difficult to be on his side because he's a bit of a dick, and the other people around him are kind of lovable and carefree.
Well, that's his arc, though, I guess, isn't it? He's too much of a stickler by the book. He learns to kind of lighten up and have fun, I suppose.
So then basically once we're in, we have a series of events where people are dying.
Picked off one by one.
And we know, as an audience, we know what's happened. Well, we know that they're being murdered and being made to look like accidents. So we're in on it. So when Nicholas Angel starts to put this together, we're kind of on board with it.
The other characters don't go along with it because they haven't seen that it wasn't just an accident and it fell by chance. That's another bit of great dialogue, actually, foreshadowing dialogue. Tim Messenger wins the raffle, I believe it is, right before that moment when he's meant to be meeting with Nicholas Angel, and whoever's pulling out the balls, I think it's Jim Broadbent, says, Tim, your number's up, or it might be Simon Skinner. Tim, your number's up, and then the thing falls on his head. There's a lot of that. The woman who runs the flower shop says, "Oh, I was just about to pop off actually," when he first gets to the flower shop, and then obviously she dies, gets killed. So it is in there. It's good.
Eventually, Nicholas Angel puts together he thinks they're murders, and he kind of thinks that it's murder. Skinner doing them, and he gathers all the evidence that points to that. Well, just after this is when we get a kind of reveal that this is not the case, and then we they confront Skinner, and it's kind of he's got an alibi, and so then he's a bit kind of put out, figures out that it's some sort of conspiracy with more than one person.
Yeah, did that twist work for you?
Which bit specifically? That
it was more than one slasher.
I liked it. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it done before and everything. It's
yeah. Well, it totally did it for me. I didn't see it coming at all when I watched this age 17, but I don't think I'd seen Scream before. I don't think I'd seen all the other slasher movies that might have primed me to expect it. So
Yeah.
I was wondering, for you as a big slasher guy, Calvin, you might have lesser. But no, I mean, it did it for me. I was very,
I liked it. Yeah.
Because I remember watching it like, oh, his leg isn't cut. How could he be involved? Who's the killer? Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't remember being that. I can't remember my first. I remembered coming into it again that it was a conspiracy thing of this group, but first time round, I can't remember how I felt about it.
I'll tell you why it doesn't quite work for me, because when they do that bit with Skinner and it's revealed and it's like, oh, he's got an alibi, his leg's not cut. I never, and it's partly the way he's playing it and the smarminess of it and the way it's been built up. You never think, oh my god, he's actually innocent. What? It's going to be someone else. I was always thinking, well, he just had one of his lackeys doing it. It was probably that big guy who can't talk. He probably got him doing it. Like he's got someone else doing the dirty work because he's the kind of the boss man, the Machiavellian guy at the top, like pulling everyone's strings, isn't he?
But by Scooby-Doo logic, that should mean that he's not the bad guy because it's never the obvious one.
Yeah. The big twist is that the village council people have basically been killing these people, and it wasn't for this big conspiracy that he's worked out. Which
I do
like
love
a
that. Yeah,
deal.
he overthinks it. He comes up with an incredibly elaborate property scam thing, and it's very like what you might get in this sort of a film. And it's actually just that they're like a bunch of uptight knobs who want their village to be nice and pretty,
and they're just this very specific things. And I know what they were doing that, and it kind of works, but I think it's just a bit too long to work as a joke. Like if it was one person and it was like, oh, he was doing this. Oh no, it's just because we didn't like the look of his house. That would work, but then it's like, oh, and this guy was a bad actor, and this guy did this, and this guy, and it just
a great big bushy beard.
Yes. I don't know if that was the issue with him. It didn't quite work. It's just a bit too drawn out for that as a moment. But I think as a concept, it was nice.
You get that classic sense of overwhelming hopelessness that, oh, how's he going to get out of this? Everyone's in on it. And then Danny is in on it and part of the conspiracy. And it is genuinely quite upsetting. It's like, oh, not you as well, Danny. And you know, Nicholas is bonded with him, and I think it's genuinely quite affecting, that little reveal. And then very soon after, you get the moment where Danny's actually befriended him, and it's, you know, he's helping him escape, and there's the payoff of the ketchup getting stabbed gag from earlier, and I think all that works really nicely. And then Nicholas Angel escapes off, and then preps and decides to basically come in guns blazing and lead a big armed assault on the town. You know, the conspiracy's kind of goes too high for him to be able to do it by the book anymore, and he just kind of needs to take it into his own hands, and you get a big, huge action payoff, and it's very, very, very satisfying.
For whatever the limitations were to the film's budget, I think they certainly know how to make the most of it, and especially in this ending scene.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it looks great.
I think the final action sequence that you get at the end of this film is perhaps arguably some of Edgar Wright's best work as a director. People sing the praises of Baby Driver, and I don't really think there's anything in that film on display quite as kinetic and well put together, just as a technical bit of you know, action filmmaking as you get at the end here. Because again, it's just so much going on at once. The sound mix, to be fair, throughout this film, the sound mix is outstanding, and I praise the sound mix in Shaun of the Dead as well. But it's amazing here that there's so many weird little touches and flourishes. There's a slow motion scene where Jim Broadbent kind of shouts out in anger, and there's like a lion roar and the sound mix over the top of it. And there's a bit where someone gets shot in the leg and falls over later on, and they have a tree being felled in the sound mix again. And it's just little things like that. Loads of this stuff was shot on a hand-cranked camera that Edgar Wright was able to acquire, and I believe was operating himself.
Oh, wow.
Cranking it. And he did it because he said it's just inconsistent with the frame rate. You just end up with this kind of, you know, you can ramp it up and lower it down, and it affects the speed of the frame rate. The footage can go slightly quicker or slightly slower, but then even if you're trying to keep it steady, it's not quite right. And you can really, again, see that, and it adds such a sense of just kind of manic energy to all of this. But then it's just really well paced and framed, you know where everything is at any given moment. It's very like, this character's got to get there, they've shot over here. It's just fantastic filmmaking, using like lo-fi action stunt work and filmmaking techniques, and yeah, brilliantly shot, very satisfying. Just seeing Nicholas Angel ride in on horseback is so satisfying at the end.
The fact that they put him on a horse is kind of ridiculous, but
so yeah, I think the ending of this film is just, it's a full-on like cinematic orgasm. Frankly, it's like the film's been wanking you off for an hour and a half, and then you just come for like 20 minutes. That's basically what the end of this film is.
I don't know if I felt like that. It was. I always feel like. I mean, I always say this, but the action scenes just feel like they're going too long for me. I do appreciate this goes a long way to make it entertaining. They're dropping gags in still. They're moving location. But this is definitely, the film goes way into kind of caricature territory at this point. Like they've got the guns like hidden in the priest's frock coat and stuff. It's like all these villagers are tooled up, and I don't know. It never quite. It's a bit egregious.
It becomes a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
It loses all sense of reality, but I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I mean, I went along with it, but it does feel silly.
I mean, just talking about the technical filmmaking on display in this film in general. Again, the editing is just magnificent throughout this film. There's some incredible smash cuts from one thing to another. The bit where you see the slasher whack a guy on the head, and then it cuts to the Simon Pegg slumping down in a chair. Things like that are just so great, and
they are just executed very well.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say there were so many moments. The moments where I really laughed at were not dialogue. It was just sort of little physical moments between them, or little, just like, I don't know, just tiny little things that made me laugh. Those were I wish I could think of a good example, but okay, I've got a good example. It's the one where Nick Frost's character gets brain freeze because he's trying to eat his cornetto at the same time as rushing off in the car.
Well, similarly, I've made a note that I think it's one of the Andys who goes, "Wanker!"
Yes.
As if that's informed how I say the word wanker now. If I'm calling someone a wanker, I do just go for wanker.
We have a bit of comedy work with the swear box. That works nicely. And on the swear box itself, it has the swear words, but they're sort of letters blanked out, so it's not offensive, apart from cunt. Just says it straight out. What's
good
nice
little gag.
That's what I mean when I said earlier on, just about how like rich the film is, and it's not in sort of like a nerdy sort of like, oh, this is a reference to this film from 20 years ago. It's just, there's just so many things going on in every shot, in every scene.
We said the same thing about Shaun of the Dead. We used the word dense, which I think really suits it. Yeah, okay. It's just packed with stuff, isn't it? There's just things everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, that was it. Yeah, we said with Shaun of the Dead, I think you could just... How many times did I estimate I'd watched it? Like
at
a
least
ridiculous
40,
amount.
Yeah.
But then I tried to justify it as, well...
At least I'm not Calvin.
It's well, no, I said I think it's the one film I've seen like a Calvin level of times. You know, you like to watch the same films like once a year.
Yes.
Well, I think I'm on similar pegging to you with Shaun of the Dead. I mean, it's been a few years.
Congratulations, that's good.
Yeah. But there's just so many background details and things to enjoy at any given moment, and I think Hot Fuzz is approaching the same level. I don't think it's quite as densely packed with stuff, but it is just full of little gags and details.
It just all helps me. It just feels like a very rewarding experience to watch it.
Yeah. Do either of you know about Dead Right?
Nope. What is it?
Edgar Wright?
It is I guess, student film Edgar Wright made.
Oh.
Hello, I'm Edgar Wright, and if you thought Hot Fuzz was my first cop film, then you were sadly very wrong indeed. Here then is Dead Right, a film that I made in 1993 when I was 18 years old, my first foray into the cop genre. It was like Hot Fuzz, it was shot in Wells, Somerset, my hometown. Unlike Hot Fuzz, it stars all of my school friends. It was shot on Super VHS. And there are a lot of parallels between Dead Right and Hot Fuzz in terms of its themes. They're both cop serial killer thrillers. We had a lot of fun making it. You might have slightly less fun watching it.
He actually sent footage from it into what was the thing Adam and Joe first appeared on? The Takeover TV, was it called?
I'm not sure.
And then they put bits of it on Channel 4 or whatever it was. I mean, it's obviously like some teenagers fucking about. It's not good.
Detective Stern, please state your position.
I'm on a path off Silver Street. Mike Tite is dead, and I know where the killer is.
Jesus! Okay, I'll be right on it. Barry, where's the killer?
Can't tell you that, Chief. As far as I'm concerned, this is no longer a team effort. He killed my partner, and his ass is mine.
Barry! Barry! God damn it, you son of a bitch!
But it's one of those things where there are some moments of absolute genius, and you can really see the DNA of Edgar Wright beginning to take form and develop. And there's a scene where a guy catches and it's all like 15-year-olds playing all the characters. But there's a bit where he catches a criminal, and the guy starts running away, and he takes off a pair of handcuffs, throws it at him. The camera sort of flies with the handcuffs, Sam Raimi style, towards the guy, and it like latches onto his hands from across the park that they're in. And
you bastard! You crazy bastard! You can't do this! You can't shoot a man without giving a warning shot!
I did fire a warning shot, and it hit you.
like I say, it's well worth looking into if you're a big fan of Edgar Wright, just as a kind of curio. But yeah, that was arguably the earliest DNA of what would turn into Hot Fuzz, because it's like a cop thing. I love Hot Fuzz. I think it's great. I think I've probably sounded quite down on it just because I was so overwhelmingly positive about Shaun of the Dead, and I've managed to pick up on some negatives in this film that I don't like to dwell on because I didn't have any for Shaun of the Dead. So, but no, I do really love this film. Should we rate it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I give it a 9 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a very sturdy 8.
I'd also go with a 9, actually.
Ooh, wow.
I really enjoyed revisiting this one. It was really, it hadn't stayed as fresh in my mind as Shaun of the Dead has, which I haven't seen in a long time. But it's pretty fantastic. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Wow. But this kind of was arguably something of a sequel. Not really, but kind of. Would you like to see a sequel to Hot Fuzz? Do you think such a thing could even be done?
I can't imagine it ever happening now. If they were ever to go back to The Well, it would surely be Shaun of the Dead that they would make a sequel to. I can't imagine this one.
I think this is more.
This lends itself more
to come back to. Yeah.
Because you could get those two guys and just do a straight up buddy cop film.
Yeah.
Like actually commit to that, and then still have a few of the regular villagers, those you can get hold of. But like someone comes into the village and is causing a problem and they have to deal with it. That's it.
I think Shaun of the Dead is done and dusted. There's no real way to go back to that world and tell a new story unless it's new characters in that world, in which case you have the problem that Simon Pegg can't be in it and stuff like that. Whereas this, I think you could get away with doing another story with them. I read an interview that was fairly recent, as in like last few years, where Simon Pegg said, I think he said something to the effect of if they were going to do a sequel to one of their films, it probably would be this one. And it'd probably be about Danny Butterman going to the big city with Nicholas Angel and them doing a kind of role reversal, Babe, Pig in the City kind of thing. Which I think makes sense. It's probably the best you could do with it. But it's probably best left untouched. I think if they were ever going to get together and do another film, I'd just want a fourth Cornetto film of some kind. Or, just a new comedy that's not part of that, so it doesn't have the same baggage, even though it would basically just be another one of them anyway.
Just to say, like, do you ever think that they would get together and do a fourth one? Are there more cornettos to eat?
I think if you were to do another cornetto, you'd have to start getting into like weird limited edition one-off cornettos. I think they've done the 3 core, like, quote-unquote real ones.
Do you think that's what's holding them back?
Yeah. But I think the other problem is just, each one's kind of a big genre pastiche ticked off, done, and what sort of big, they've done zombies, that's kind of horror, ticked and done. It'd be a bit weird to go fully back to horror. Hot Fuzz is action, although they do put a bit of horror in there as well. World's End was kind of meant to be sci-fi, although it arguably suffers from kind of just going into horror territory again. I mean, what else have you got?
Period drama?
Yeah, it's not quite the same, is it? Could do a kung fu movie, maybe. Kung fu. I don't know. It's not quite the same. I'm trying to think what Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg love. They love Star Wars.
It has to be something small and British as well.
Yeah. Maybe just let them get together and just do a new film, and it's not necessarily a genre pastiche. It's just whatever the hell they feel like making, I guess. And I would love that because I think we've alluded to not being massively into Baby Driver on this podcast a few times. You know what would have made it brilliant if Simon Pegg had written it with him, and it was a comedy. If it was the same film, but it was a comedy with Simon Pegg writing it, and you know what would have made Paul better?
If Edgar Wright
had directed it, yeah, and written it. And you know what would have made Scott Pilgrim better? If Simon Pegg had been there to kind of keep the structure in check, I think. And I could just keep... What would have made Run Fat Boy Run better?
What would have made Cuban Fury better? You can't make that better.
Thank you ever so much once again to our listeners. Oh fuck me! I dropped my drink. Thank you ever so much to our listeners, our patrons, to Japanese Timothy Dalton. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
He almost said "so." Then
I don't think we'll be doing this character again. We'll see you next week for the conclusion of the trilogy. The sort of dare we say the corner we've written ourselves into that we have to fulfill for the sake.
Oh, do you not like it either?
Don't give away.
Let's not jump ahead of things.
Okay, I can. I'm not on it. I hated it. I thought it was dreadful. Horrible film.
So Calvin won't be joining us.
And it's got Pierce Brosnan in it, so it's bad. If I'm saying it's bad, not that he is a testament to something being bad, but
How would you rank it in terms of Pierce Brosnan's career? Top 5 films?
Well, he's all right. Oh.
So
yeah. Well,
next week.